Hi, in this video I want to go over the exercise number 7 in the Visual Basic textbook. This exercise is a really simple one, but I want to show you how you can tackle this problem using a substring. Okay, so the idea is to check a string, whether a string is a palindrome. A palindrome is a word or a phrase that can be read in either direction, forward or backward, character for character. Okay, so here are some examples of that. So, for example, if you see look at the first one here, it says race car. Okay, if you spell the race car backward, you get the same spelling, and the second sentence here is also the same, right? If you remove all the punctuation marks, then you get the same spelling. So that is the definition of a palindrome: is a word or a phrase that reads the same forward and backward. Alright, and I ask you to use a function to check for that, and also use a repetition or a loop structure to perform the task. I'm not requiring you to, parse all these out. We'll just assume that a sentence that you enter would include just characters. Okay, so will be kind of like this one here, race car. Okay, and of course you can use numbers too if you want, but we don't have to do all this punctuations and so forth. If you want to do it, that's completely fine. If you do, then just make sure you use one of these methods here to remove any punctuation marks in order to before you can check it. And just to be safe, you also want to convert your strings to upper or to lowercase, either way, because uppercase and lowercase characters are not the same. Okay, they're using this Unicode or the ASCII code number. Alright, so in order to do this, I want to show you just a really simple example of how you can tackle this problem. So here is a table. I just put it here to show you the a word called level. Okay, I put that into this column table here. You can see that the first character, second, third, fourth, and fifth, we have a 5-character word, and so the length of this string, as called str, will be equals to 5. Right? If you just count the number of characters, there are 5, but the maximum index for this word is actually 4, because we're including 0 as the 0th position. Okay, so remember that Visual Basic is a 0-based language. That means everything counts starting from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 will be the end of that, the last character. And then the idea is you want to compare the first character in the 0th position against the last character of that same word. Alright, so you will need 2 index parameters or variables to track them. Of course, there are many ways to do this. Okay, but I'm just showing you one of the maybe easier ways to do is to create 2 index variables, and one here I'll just call it left, and one is called right. And as you loop through this string, so you use a loop counter starting from 0 all the way to the maximum index of 4. Right? If it's the index is greater than 4, then we exit the loop. So to check is so through the first iteration, we will assign the left index to 0, to position at the 0 here, as this green arrow here, and the right will be the end of that character string, will be the 4th position. So our right will be set to 4, and as you can see, the left is set to 0, the right is equals to the length of the string minus 1. This is important. Okay, this is the index position, whereas the length is 5. If you don't do that, then when we reach the 5th element, 5th index position, we have an error because it's out of boundary. So when we loop through the first iteration, left is 0, right is 4, and you can check the substring of this first character. And by using this substring function method here, as you can see, we have the string, which is the actual string here, dot substring, and inside the substring we have 2 parameters: the starting index position, that's the first parameter. So in this case, if you want to check the left side, will be the left which is 0, and then how many numbers of characters do we want to count from there on? Okay, so we just want to grab the first character, only one character at a time, so really this is just 1. Okay, so it'll be like if you were just to hard code this in, it will be index of 0 and then 1 here to count, to grab the first letter out of this string. Okay, you are not actually making any changes to the string here. It just return a substring of that string str. Okay, so you got the L, and then you will do the same thing, but this time you replace the position here with the right side, which is 4, and again you only count one character, so the L and L. And then the next thing is you compare this and that together, see if they're equal. If they are, then great. Then you move on to the next one. So, and then you will increment your left side to 1, and you decrement your right side to -1, and now you're moving your index positions to these two positions now. And then you do the same thing again, right? So this part is already fixed. You don't need to do that anymore, because if you will put left and right, then they'll always be automatically set to those positions. Then you check the E and E, they're good, and then you move on to the next one. And then now you move this to the right, and you move that to the left. So now they're both pointing to the same character, which is V, which is fine. And you check that V is equal to V, that's fine. And then finally you see that the green is over here, okay, and then the yellow, which is the right side, is over here. Now they overlapped, right? They overlap each other. So at this point you can stop. You don't need to check any further, because if you continue on, it's going to be equal all the way, and you're just wasting CPU time. So really, when you check your index values, if they overlap, then if they're all equal overlap, and then you can conclude that the string is a palindrome. Okay, and you can actually also check at this position, right? When they're equal, and the characters matched, which is they should be. In this case, if you have a odd size of characters, then they'll have, in this situation, they'll be equal. If you have even character size, then they'll overlap each other. So you can say, you can also check to see if they equal or overlap each other, right? So when the left is equal to or less than, is equal to or greater than the right, and then you can assume that that's the end of the loop. You can stop there. Okay, and you can just say, okay, this is a palindrome. All right. So using this scenario to help you understand how to solve such a problem, and this is very helpful later on as well when we deal with arrays. So I would highly recommend you to draw it out if you have to, write it out. This is how you would use different ways how to tackle problems, and you just kind of brainstorm it until you find a solution. And then now you can translate it into code. So let's go into the code here. So I just designed this little simple form here to allow the user to input a palindrome with string here. And I click the button to check it. If it is, then it would just say it is a palindrome, otherwise it is not. Okay, so this text box, I just call it txt string, button will be just btn palindrome, and then down here just, I think, txt result. Okay, so I'm going to double click my palindrome to load this method here, this routine, and I'm going to do my code in here. So that the first thing is I'm going to have a string. So with string as string, and I'm going to read this string directly from the txt result. Txt string, right? From the form dot text. And then now I also want to force it to be all uppercase. So you can say string is equal to string dot to upper, right? You force it to be uppercase. Misspell that. Okay, and so now it's all uppercase. If you want to choose lowercase, then just put 2 lower. But I'll use upper. And then the next thing is you want to use a loop. So I will use a do while loop. I need to have the left and right index. So dim L left as integer. This will be set to 0. Dim right as integer. I'll set this to the length of the string. You can obtain the length of the string by just going to string.length. Okay. And then of course, whatever the string is, you also want to do a -1 to get the max index. Otherwise, you have a out of bounds error. Finally, you also want to check to see if it's a palindrome. So you can say is palindrome as boolean, and I will force it to be true. So I'll just assume that every word that comes in will be true. And the reason is, you'll see in a minute, is inside the while loop. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. So now I'm going to check the while loop. I say do while the left, okay, it is still less than the right, okay, and also is palindrome is true, right? Well, that is still true. Then I continue on, and we talked about the and also here. You can use and is fine, just like this, okay? And the difference between the and the and also is that this is a short circuit type of and. That means that if this is, you're gonna check this side first. If this is true, because it's an and, then you also want to check to see if this is also true. Okay, but if this is already false, then therefore you don't need to verify this part. It doesn't matter what this one is, right? As long as one of them is false, everything else is false. That is the and also. If you use the and only, that means that you have to check all conditions, no matter what they are. If this is already false, we know already the result is going to be false, but still it's going to check this side as well. Okay, so that's the difference between and also. So I'll use the and also here. So if both of those are true, then we continue in the loop. Then we want to check to see if the if you go back here, if the first character and the last character are the same. Okay, so we would say if the string of the substring of the string at the left position, we just need one character. Okay, if that, which is in this case is L, if we're to use level, equals to string of the substring on the right side, that first character, if that is true, okay, then what do we do? If that is true, then we do nothing here. We just increment our left to 1, and we decrement our right to -1, right? So here we have left is equal to left plus 1, so plus 1, and the right is -1. That's a shortcut, right? Shortcut for left. That's left is equal to left plus 1, and this is the same. It's just that right equals to right -1. Okay, and we do that. Okay. What if it's not equal? What if it's like what if I put like R here, right? If it's not equal, then that's the other case. So we need the else part, right? Else, we don't need to do anything further because we know that if it's not equal, then it's not a palindrome. So therefore, we will set this palindrome to false. Okay, because it is false, we go back out to the loop and we loop it through. It will say, is left less than right? Yes, it is. It's still true, but we also need to check over here. Is palindrome true? No, not anymore because you set it to false. In that case, we exit out of the loop. Okay. Okay, and then we're done. So down here we're just gonna display to the result. So the txt result will be either true or false, right? So if you just put is palindrome here, and it will tell you whether that's true or false. I mean, it's a really simple one, right? So if I save this for now and run this application, if I put letter E, of course, that should be true, right? Because E is E. If I put E, Y, E is another word that is also a palindrome. If I put E, Y, E, it's still true because I forced it to be uppercase. Okay, but if I put like R, Y, E, then that's no longer true because they don't match, right? Okay, so if you again put the lever, and that should be true because that's the same spelling. You spell in either direction. If we added another character here, then that is no longer true. Okay, so this is how you would this is one way how you would tackle this problem by checking character for character from the left and the right. Again, just make sure that you put a -1 for the length here. If you don't, for example, if you don't do this, if I just do that, and then you see that it has an error because the right is actually the maximum index +1 of the character length. So for example, if I do this, if I do like an E, it will generate an error because 1 is more than the 0th positions. So a single character in a string, the index is actually 0th index. Okay, so just make sure you do a -1. If you don't do it here, then you have to do it right inside here, like art right -1. Okay, and just by doing that, you would solve the problem. Okay, so all right, so I hope that is helpful. You can check it with just not just string, but you can put numbers in there as well. It should still work. Let's just to see that if that is the case. If I put in 1, 2, 1, that should still be palindrome. 1, 2, 1, 2 is no longer because it's not the same. Okay. Okay. So if you have any questions, shoot me an email or post a comment, and I'll be more than happy to assist. Thank you.